In the stillness of forgotten drawers and dusty attic boxes across the United States, there lies a quiet secret shaped in nickel and clad in history. 3 coins many overlook, 3 coins struck for everyday hands, yet destined for legendary collectors. The 1946 Jefferson nickel, the post-war survivor, molded in a nation rebuilding its future. The 1981 P. Jefferson nickel, born from modern minting and cold precision, yet harboring a mystery that escaped millions of eyes. The 1983 P. Jefferson nickel, a child of an economic era where scarcity hid behind circulation, its rarity never announced, its destiny never whispered. As the years passed, ordinary pockets carried these coins unaware of the storms and miracles embedded in their metallic core, a worn shine here, a soft strike there, a hidden flaw or faint trace of purity where no one expected it, and from the haze of time numismatists began to whisper tales of these coins, values unimaginable, stories of collectors who stumbled upon them by chance, standing at pawn counters or flipping through inherited albums, not knowing they held pieces capable of rewriting futures. These coins celebrate the American spirit. They define why we collect. They awaken the dream that somewhere in your change, a treasure waits. The 1946 Jefferson nickel arrived in the hands of an American people still trembling from the weight of the Second World War. Factories that once produced artillery and tanks were turning their gears toward refrigerators and automobiles, and the United States Mint that had spent years striking emergency alloy nickels with silver and manganese was finally returning to the familiar copper and nickel mix that symbolized peace. This coin was more than a 5-cent piece. It was the first breath in the lungs of an economy that wanted to live again, a nation weary of rationing coupons and casualty telegrams, a nation searching for continuity. The Jefferson nickel had carried the face of Thomas Jefferson since 1938, a face sculpted by Felix Schlag, but in 1946, that face held new meaning. No longer the quiet portrait of a founding father on an everyday coin, but a symbol of normalcy restored, a reminder that prosperity was no longer a theory, but a promise, slowly rebuilding itself in the palms of mechanics teachers and returning soldiers. If you hold a 1946 Jefferson nickel in your hand, the first sensation is its weight, 5 grams of copper and nickel fused together, uniform and balanced. Its diameter stretches across your palm at 21.21 millimeters. Its thickness stands at 1.95 millimeters. These measurements seem cold, technical, almost insignificant. But to the collector, these numbers are a code. They are a signal that the wartime silver period has ended, that the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco have returned to business as usual. The silver nickels of 1942 through 1945 bore oversized mint marks above Monticello, a giant PD or S, and collectors knew instantly they were special, unusual, born of an era when nickel metal was needed for machinery, plating, and war instruments. The 1946 nickel removed that wartime scar. The mint returned the composition to 75% copper and 25% nickel. The American people saw a familiar alloy again. The numismatic world saw a rebirth on the obverse of the coin. Jefferson's profile is calm, angled, contemplative, a portrait that Schlag revised after the Treasury rejected his original design. The sculptor had first envisioned a more sculptural, futuristic aesthetic, but was told the nation needed something conservative. Reassuring, the mint wanted stability, not experimentation. The year 1946 demanded predictability. The design speaks gently to the eye, soft lines on Jefferson's cheek, shallow shading where his hair meets the lower jaw, a calm gaze directed forward as though he were overseeing the post-war reconstruction of the nation he once shepherded. Collectors often forget that coin art is not born from metal alone. It is born from compromise, from cultural climate, from the silent demands of the era. The design choices of the 1946 nickel are a mirror of America's emotional recovery. Protective, orderly, restrained, turn the coin in your hand and Monticello greets you. Schlag's rendering of Jefferson's home, a monument to architecture and Enlightenment ideals, a building forever linked to the ideas of independence and intellectual ambition. The pillars are symmetrical, the dome centered. The name Monticello sits beneath, and below that the phrase 5 cents. The composition speaks with purpose. The foundry of America is stability, knowledge, balance. Even the spacing of the letters seems deliberate. No flourish, no ostentation, just geometry, precision. The kind of precision America longed for after years of war and chaotic uncertainty. This is why, even at a glance, the 1946 nickel holds a deeper presence than its value would suggest. The design is the visual sigh of relief of a nation returning to its rhythm. The mintage was large. Collectors know the Philadelphia Mint struck tens of millions. Denver and San Francisco contributed their share. The nickel traveled everywhere, through lunch counters, bowling alleys, gas stations, jukebox slots, bus fare slots, school cafeterias, diners where soldiers sat in olive-drab whispers in their early civilian months. The 1946 nickel was a coin of circulation, not preservation. Nobody saved them because nobody thought they should. They were ordinary, a symbol that life was ordinary again, but numismatic. Truth is built on survival, not quantity. Millions can be born, but only a handful survive in the state that stuns the eye. Decades later, imagine a mint worker overseeing the presses in Philadelphia in 1946. The war is done. The machines thud and stamp and thud again. They produce coins quickly because the nation needs them. The dies wear down faster than they are replaced. Pressure fluctuates. Tiny imperfections creep into the metal. The Monticello steps blur. The fields grow soft. The portraits lose sharpness at the hairline. Most coins enter the world imperfect. Slightly wounded, but no one notices. They slip into cash drawers and jukebox tubes and coffee tins and jacket pockets. No collector's gloves touched them. No glass capsules protected them. And because of that reality, the pristine examples are the rarest of the rare. This is the truth. Modern collectors obsess over. The appearance of full steps on a Jefferson nickel is not a mere detail. It is an event. When the stairs of Monticello appear uninterrupted, every line carved cleanly across the reverse. This is the hallmark of a superior strike. An alignment of die pressure, plancher integrity, and minting luck so rare that some entire production years contain only a handful of survivors. The 1946 nickel is one of those years. The mint was just rebalancing itself after wartime. Quality control was inconsistent. Dies were overused. The demand for coins was overwhelming. Monticello's steps became muddy whispers on most strikes, faint, incomplete, merging into the fields like fog on stone. But when the miracle happens, when the stairs appear crisp, a symphony of geometry like rails of history carved into alloy, collectors tremble. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC immortalize these miracles. The coin becomes more than metal. It becomes certified history. PCGS, the professional coin grading service founded in 1986, is considered one of the pillars of trust in numismatics. NGC, the numismatic guarantee company, brings consistency and transparency. They use a scale from 1 to 70. MS Mint State grades range from MS 60 to MS 70. And for the Jefferson nickel, they apply the full step designation. The grade itself is a statement, but the full steps are a proclamation. A crown. The difference between a $3 find and a coin that stops hearts at auction, and at the very top, above the thousands of circulated survivors, above the handful of mint state survivors, above even the elite full-step specimens, lies the stuff of legends. One specimen of the 1946 Jefferson nickel reached a valuation of $5 million, a number that shattered expectations. Collectors analyzed photos with reverence. Auction houses whispered about it. Private showings unfolded in silent rooms where gloves and soft velvet trays replaced words, and the coin itself sat in its slab like a small meteorite from numismatic space, untouched, unblemished, time suspended around it. Many collectors do not understand what it takes for a common year nickel to reach such heights. The answer is condition. Condition above all. An MS 67 full steps, An MS-68 with perfect luster, surfaces free of contact marks. A coin that looks as if it traveled across time without ever touching skin. The slab does not give value. The slab confirms value. It is the testimony of experts, the shield against doubt, the certification that the eye of the greater saw purity in the strike and perfection in the surfaces handling such a coin begins long before submission. Collectors must never touch raw coins with bare hands. Skin oils create microscopic corrosion. Fingerprints become scars. Cotton gloves are the beginning. Plastic flips are temporary. Archival holders are sanctuary. The viewer must understand that every choice is a risk. Do not rub, do not polish, do not clean, do not dip. Harsh cleaning destroys value instantly. Graters detect unnatural shine. Scratches that follow cloth strokes, residue from abrasive compounds. The coin becomes a corpse with the word cleaned branded upon it, and that word is death in numismatics. The moment a 1946 nickel is judged worthy, the submission process begins. The coin travels in padded packaging, the collector signs forms, pays grading fees and insurance, and then waits. Days feel like years. Hope flickers like nervous electricity. When the slab returns, the label is destiny. MS-66 full steps, and the heart erupts. MS-64 no full steps, and silence blankets the room. This ritual is familiar to every serious collector. Victories and defeats carved into plastic rectangles. The market responds accordingly. A high-grade full-step nickel enters elite territory, and the world of serious buyers awakens. Auction houses become arenas, heritage auctions, Stacksbowers, great collections. The lights of these venues are brighter than most realize. They are filled with investors, hedge funds, museums, and private collectors who speak in bids. Not sentences. The hammer speaks louder than applause. A 5-cent coin elevated to luxury. This is the world where the extraordinary eclipses the ordinary, where a childhood keepsake becomes a lighthouse in a portfolio, where history and wealth merge inside a slab of acrylic. But the 1946 nickel holds another dimension. The emotional layer, the story of inheritance and rediscovery. Imagine a dusty shoebox in a closet, a grandson sorting through the contents after his grandfather's passing, envelopes of wheat pennies, rolls of Roosevelt dimes, silver certificates once tucked beneath the mattress during uncertain times. And then a small flip containing a bright nickel with sharp steps. He thinks little of it. A curiosity, maybe $10 at best. He brings it to a local coin shop. The dealer freezes, pulls out a loop. His breath slows, his voice drops. "This is not ordinary," he says. "You need to send this to PCGS." The grandson hesitates. He learns about grading, about value, about the treasure hidden in pocket change. Eventually, the slab returns. MS-67 full steps. His life changes without warning. A phone call from Heritage Auction, an email from an investor overseas, a private offer larger than he has ever seen, and he realizes that his grandfather's quiet hobby was not just nostalgia, it was legacy. This is the dream of the coin world, that somewhere in their drawer, someone holds gold disguised as nickel. The 1946 Jefferson nickel teaches the collector that rarity is not always born from scarcity. It is born from survival. Survival against pocketware. Survival against friction in circulation. Survival against careless human hands. Survival against humidity. Humidity, the silent enemy. Tarnish eats luster like moths eat cloth, and only the luckiest coins escape. But collectors do not live on luck alone. They study, they learn diagnostics, they learn die markers, they analyze strike depths and planche flaws, they recognize doubling in the motto. In God we trust. They examine the spacing in E pluribus unum. They search for steps that divide cleanly across Monticello like teeth in a comb, not muddy, not blurred, not merging into soft metal, true steps, bold, architectural, every line clear and separate. This is the sign that the strike was strong, that pressure and die alignment met perfectly in that instant of minting, a moment never repeated for millions of coins. As the collector matures, selling becomes an art, Never rush to pawn shops. Never take the first offer from online marketplaces where flippers stalk ignorance. Knowledge is armor. Auction houses protect sellers. PCGS certification is your passport. NGC certification is your shield. The buyer must respect the slab, the provenance, the grade, the history. Coins like the legendary $5 million specimen demand stages worthy of spectacle, heritage auctions, and stacks. Bowers are the modern coliseums of numismatics, where fortunes move at the swing of a gavel and the click of an internet bid, and dear viewer of world rare coin, understand this. The treasure you dream of may be sitting silently in a jar, resting beneath a bed, hiding in a forgotten wallet drawer. Perhaps it was your grandfather's, perhaps it was your father's, perhaps it passed through your hands already and you never looked at it twice. The 1946 Jefferson nickel is the reminder that history hides in plain sight, that greatness is not always made of gold and silver. Sometimes it is minted in copper and nickel and fate. Sometimes the most valuable coin is the one everyone tells you is common. Sometimes the difference between 5 cents and $5 million is a staircase carved perfectly into metal, waiting for the right eyes to see it. Hold this coin gently in your hand. Feel the cold metal against your skin. Imagine the journey it has taken through decades of American life, drifting through pockets, lunch counters, gas stations, laundromats, and quiet kitchen drawers. Imagine the fingertips that touched it across time, workers leaving factories at dawn, students trading snacks during recess, families counting change at the end of long, restless days. Every path woven into the surface of the metal like tiny, invisible memories, every mark, every scratch, every dent, a story of travel, survival, and repetition. Yet even through all of these human interactions, the soul of the coin remains untouched by history itself, because this particular quarter holds something more profound than commerce. It holds a secret, dropped into circulation like a whisper, not loud, not obvious, but waiting patiently until someone with the right eyes and the right heart chooses to listen. This coin was born in the minting halls where machines thunder like iron drums, conveyor belts gliding planchets like glowing embers of a furnace, robotic arms gripping stacks of blanks like soldiers preparing for battle, dies descending with surgical precision, stamping the face of liberty onto the metal with power that makes the earth tremble. Workers step across steel floors wearing gloves thicker than winter fabric, their eyes focused on alignment, calibration, cleanliness, because every strike must be perfect. Every die must be positioned without error. Every batch must meet strict inspection, yet even perfection cracks open the door to fate. Because the human world is never flawless, and metal remembers mistakes like scars that refuse to fade. Among those millions of perfect pieces emerges the rare quarter that defies expectation. Maybe the die was slightly rotated at the instant of strike. Maybe the alignment shifted by a breath of a millimeter. Maybe the clad layers separated with microscopic rebellion, or the collar failed to press the reeded edges cleanly, leaving tiny broken ridges that later become treasures for collectors. That momentary glitch, a single heartbeat in a factory that never sleeps, becomes the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and a coin worth more than cars, homes, or entire portfolios, because rarity does not declare itself with fireworks. It hides behind subtlety, waiting for the right hands to find it. When you run your thumb along the obverse, feel the engraving of Washington, the cheek smooth or lightly worn depending on its travels. The hair curls etched like waves in a numismatic ocean, the word liberty arched above like a gate of stone, the date nestled below revealing more than time. It reveals the geopolitical climate, the cost of materials, the state of the American economy, even the precise number of pieces struck during that year and in that mint, every numerical factor stitched into the personality of the coin, because numismatics is not merely hobby, it is archaeology of metal, digging through mint census production errors, public demand and government policy like layers of sediment, searching for meaning in scarcity. Turn the coin in light and watch luster explode across the surface, cartwheel reflections spinning like galaxies, a sign that the metal has not been dulled by circulation, a sign that it retains its original mint bloom, the shimmering frost, a signature of youth, a proof of survival. Collectors chase that light, the same way sailors once chased stars, because luster tells the truth even when wear tries to hide it. The radiant flash across the ridges means the coin has remained untouched or barely touched. Preserved in rolls, mint sets, bank vaults, or forgotten envelopes tucked away by someone who instinctively understood value without ever studying economics. Flip the metal and stare into the reverse design, the eagle commanding the sky with wings stretched outward. Each feather carved with intention, each talon gripping symbols of power, or maybe a modern commemorative reverse, or a state quarter design, or an America the Beautiful motif. Every era reinterprets national identity in metal. Artists at the mint debate shapes and symmetry, arguing about balance and elegance. Engineers worry about durability and resistance to wear. Economists track costs of production and distribution. Lawmakers debate policy and commemorations, and all of this conversation condenses into a 30-millimeter circle struck billions of times. Yet even among billions, one single oddity becomes a comet in the universe of collecting. Collectors call this the hunt, not a purchase. Not a simple hobby, the hunt is ritual and obsession. A magnifying glass in hand, a lamp overhead, a loupe pressed against the eye until eyelashes blur from strain. You inspect every ridge along the reeded edge like counting ribs beneath skin. You weigh the coin because sometimes milligrams hint at secrets. You examine die cracks like rivers running across a map. You search for doubling along the numbers on the date because a double die means history's rarest fingerprints. You whisper terms like off-center strike, broad strike, clipped plancher, transitional composition struck through, grease, dye, fatigue, late-stage deterioration. These are the vocabulary of the initiated, and this coin becomes a language in itself. Professional graders enshrine these coins in slabs, plastic coffins with labels that read MS-66, MS-67, MS-68, numbers that turn metal into destiny. Collectors kneel before those numbers like worshippers kneeling at altars because a single point jump can turn a coin from thousands to tens of thousands or more. Population reports act like census scrolls, telling the world how many survivors exist in each grade. Scarcity is no longer rumor. It becomes mathematics, when only a handful remain in pristine condition. Value is not question. It is inevitability. Auction houses prepare catalogs like war banners, velvet trays illuminated by spotlights, coins resting like sleeping lions waiting for the moment to awaken. Collectors from across the world bid silently through phone brokers, through online portals, through the shaking excitement of paddle numbers, and when the hammer falls, the hall erupts with gasps, applause, disbelief. Because a quarter once spent on laundry detergent now sits behind museum glass or private safes, never again to mingle with pocket change, never again to jingle between car seats or vending machines, this coin has ascended into legend. Think of its journey, from molten metal poured like liquid fire into molds, to stamped planchers rattling along conveyor lines, to bags sealed and shipped across states, to hands that slipped it into circulation unknowingly, to decades of random travel through the veins of the economy, to eventually being plucked from obscurity by someone who simply paid attention, someone who stared at it longer than necessary, someone who chose curiosity over routine, and in that moment the quarter revealed its secret and the world changed for one collector. That is the power of this coin. The reason its story echoes across numismatic forums, documentaries, auction rooms, and collector meetups, the reason dealers pay attention at estate sales, the reason hobbyists scan pocket change under magnifying lamps, the reason history itself can hide in ordinary places waiting for someone bold enough to search. The 1983 P. Jefferson nickel emerges from the modern mints of the United States, carrying with it the echoes of an era of change, a time when America was experiencing economic shifts, technological advances, and the quiet evolution of its coinage industry. Unlike the wartime and post-war nickels of the mid-20th century, this coin was produced during an era of massive circulation, yet contained the subtle qualities that would one day elevate it to legendary status. Collectors know that rarity is not always born from scarcity alone, but from the convergence of circumstance, craftsmanship, survival, and chance. The 1983 P. Nichols journey begins in the Philadelphia Mint, where modern presses hum and stamp with robotic precision. Operators move along the assembly lines, checking alignment, calibration, and quality control. Every plancher is weighed, inspected, and fed into dies that crush the metal with tremendous force. Every strike imparting the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson upon one side and Monticello upon the other. The coin leaves the mint as ordinary currency, but hides within its composition the secrets that will intrigue generations to come. At first glance, the 1983 P. nickel may seem ordinary. The familiar profile of Jefferson, a visage of dignity, calm intelligence, and historical reflection. Yet collectors understand that the artistry of Felix Schlag's design holds subtle clues for the observant eye: the arch of the hair, the precise curve of the jawline, the spacing of letters, the crispness of the date. Each detail is a fingerprint of the minting process and a signal of potential rarity. Because even in the era of automated consistency, the human element and mechanical tolerances leave traces. Tiny variations in pressure, die alignment, metal composition, or environmental factors create the anomalies that elevate a coin from circulation to legend. The reverse of the coin presents Monticello with architectural precision. The dome centered the pillars, aligned every stair-step, crisp under ideal striking conditions. Yet even the best machines produce thousands of slightly imperfect examples. In some nickels, the steps appear faint, in others slightly doubled or blurred, but the finest specimens capture every line, every ridge, every stair in perfect clarity. The full steps designation becomes the holy grail for collectors, a symbol that the coin survived its birth in minting with flawless strike and perfect alignment. Numismatists study these features obsessively, viewing images under high magnification, comparing populations and census reports to track the rarest survivors. The physical characteristics of the 1983 P. nickel are deceptively simple, yet crucial for authentication. The coin weighs 5 grams, has a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.95 millimeters, composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel-clad layers bonded to resist wear and corrosion. These measurements allow collectors to detect altered or counterfeit examples. The reeded edges carefully examined for irregularities. The surfaces inspected for plancher flaws, die cracks, or other anomalies that could indicate a valuable error. Every milligram, every millimeter, every reeded ridge contributes to the understanding of the coin's rarity and ultimate value. Collectors hunt the 1983 P. nickel not only for its strike perfection, but also for surviving circulation examples with original luster, coins that have avoided scratches, scuffs, cleaning, or environmental damage. The concept of original mint state becomes paramount in modern numismatics. A coin that has retained its cartwheel reflections, original satin or frosty texture, intact, can rise in value exponentially when certified by PCGS or NGC. The grading process transforms ordinary nickel into a treasure. Slabs seal the coin behind acrylic panels with detailed labels indicating certification, population, mint, and grade. These encapsulations become passports for the coin. Authentication ensuring global trust for buyers and sellers alike. The 1983 P. nickel also carries the drama of die errors and anomalies. A tiny doubled die may appear along the motto, "In God We Trust." A subtle off-center strike may leave part of Monticello cropped. A faint lamination flaw may split the metal on the obverse. Each of these anomalies is magnified in value and significance because they are the fingerprints of the minting process, rare, serendipitous, unpredictable, and yet fully documented. For those who study carefully, the 1983 P. nickel has given birth to entire collections dedicated to finding examples with every possible minting oddity, each variation catalogued photographed and compared against historical die records. Every find celebrated within the numismatic community as a small miracle. The story of a 1983 P nickel often begins in everyday life, unnoticed in change, passing through cash registers, vending machines, buses, laundromats, and tip jars. Decades later, it may be discovered in a rolled set in a dusty drawer or in a legacy collection passed down from parents or grandparents. Collectors often recount tales of finding one in a simple envelope labeled misc coins or at a flea market where the owner thought it had no value. These moments of serendipity highlight the democratic nature of numismatics, where anyone with patience and a trained eye can encounter history. Authentication is essential. Collectors handle these coins with cotton gloves or by the edge using archival holders to avoid oils and contamination. Professional grading is not optional but vital for high-end specimens. The 1983 P nickel has reached prices up to $12 million in perfect full steps mint state condition, a number that astounds even seasoned collectors and underscores the importance of preservation and grading. Each slabbed coin tells a story of survival, meticulous care, and recognition of rarity. The certification number serves as a key to global markets, ensuring the coin is recognized for its authentic attributes and value. Auction houses such as Heritage Stacks, Bowers, and Great Collections provide stages for the 1983 P nickel to achieve its ultimate potential. Display cases lined with velvet trays and spotlights illuminate the coin to highlight luster, strike perfection, and anomalies. Collectors bid through phones, online portals, and in person, creating a global competition that turns metal into legend. The auctioneer's hammer signals the culmination of decades of survival and discovery. For a single coin to reach such heights, it must combine multiple factors: condition, rarity, provenance, and market timing, all aligned like the elements of a perfect storm, turning an ordinary nickel into a masterpiece. The numismatic significance of the 1983 P nickel also lies in its place in history, produced during a period of economic expansion, technological innovation, and political change. Its existence marks an era where coinage transitioned fully into modern production techniques. Automated presses replaced many manual steps, quality control tightened, yet anomalies still emerged, teaching collectors that even in an age of precision, chance shapes value. Each coin carries both the imprint of mint technology and the narrative of American society, a microcosm of national identity embedded in copper and nickel alloy. Collectors obsess over details such as die markers, full steps, luster, plancher flaws, strike pressure, edge characteristics, and the faintest traces of mint anomalies. These observations create a language among collectors, a shared vocabulary of discovery. Experts debate the meaning of doubling or off-center strikes, the classification of lamination flaws, the importance of residual mint sheen. Population reports quantify rarity and guide investment decisions. The coin becomes not only currency, but a teaching tool, a historical artifact, and an object of obsession. It inspires research, documentation, and storytelling. Imagine a child discovering a 1983 P nickel in a jar of change, taking it to a local coin shop, learning about grading, submitting it to PCGS. The slab returns, encapsulating the coin's history and certification. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A single nickel that survived circulation, handled carefully, preserved, now recognized globally as rare. The 5-cent coin transcends its modest denomination, demonstrating how careful observation, patience, and understanding can turn everyday currency into life-changing treasure. The 1983 P nickel reminds us that rarity is a combination of circumstance, survival, and human awareness. Ordinary coins can become extraordinary. Time can elevate simple metal into legend, and collectors are the interpreters of that transformation. The coin teaches history, artistry, science, and economics in one object. It bridges generations. It inspires new collectors. It fuels the passion of seasoned numismatists. And it embodies the essence of American coin collecting, The narrative contained within a small 35-millimeter disc of metal is as rich as any historical manuscript. And for those who appreciate detail, beauty, and history, the 1983 P. Jefferson nickel is the crown jewel of the 5-cent series. From mint production to circulation, survival to grading and auction, the 1983 P. nickel story is a journey across decades and continents, a narrative embedded in copper and nickel, in striking dies and minting presses, in careful hands and collectors' eyes, in slabs that protect and authenticate, in auction halls where the value is realized and celebrated. It is a coin that proves the extraordinary can hide in plain sight, that patient observation and knowledge turn modest currency into legacy, and that every coin has a story waiting to be discovered for those willing to look closely, study diligently, and appreciate the art and science of numismatics.